In the year 1885, when the American frontier still breathed dust and danger, and the mountains kept secrets older than memory, Eleanor Whitmore stepped off a rattling stagecoach with nothing but a suitcase, a bruised heart, and a marriage certificate signed only hours before to a man everyone called poor, silent, and half-wild, a mountain man named Caleb Holt, whose clothes were patched, whose boots were worn thin, and whose eyes carried the kind of calm that came from surviving alone for too long. Eleanor had once been promised a refined life back east, chandeliers and piano music and polite applause, but after her father's sudden death left her penniless and unwanted by the very society that had praised her, she answered an advertisement for a husband written in careful ink, simple words asking for a wife who could endure quiet, cold, and honesty. And when she met Caleb, she saw no wealth, no comfort, only a tall man with weathered hands who spoke gently and offered her a choice instead of a promise. And she chose him, believing poverty with dignity was better than luxury with humiliation. Yet the townsfolk laughed as Caleb led her away from the station toward the mountains, whispering that she had married a ghost, a man who lived in a shack above the timberline, a man who owned nothing but land no one wanted. And for weeks Eleanor endured the harshness of mountain life, the cramped cabin, the endless chores, the isolation that gnawed at her in the long nights when the wind screamed like a living thing, while Caleb worked from dawn till dark, disappearing into the forest and returning with little explanation, always kind but distant, always watchful, as if guarding something unseen. And Eleanor began to believe she had traded one kind of abandonment for another, until the day winter came early and brutal, and a group of violent claim jumpers swept through the lower settlements, burning cabins and stealing what little people had, forcing Caleb to pack their belongings in silence and tell Eleanor they had to leave immediately. No time for questions, no time for fear, only trust. And as he guided their horses higher into paths she had never seen, Eleanor noticed signs of careful maintenance, cleared trails, hidden markers, stone walls disguised by moss, things no poor mountain man should have had time or knowledge to build. And after 2 days of relentless travel through snow and narrow passes, Caleb led her through a sheer rock face concealed by timber, revealing iron gates worked into the mountain itself, and as they passed through, Eleanor's breath caught when the mountain opened into a vast hidden valley where a grand stone mansion stood, warm lights glowing in every window, gardens sleeping beneath winter cloth, stables filled with fine horses, and workers who stepped forward and greeted Caleb not as a pauper, but as a master, calling him Sir. And in that moment, Eleanor realized the man she married for his poverty was hiding a fortune, a legacy, built not on greed, but on survival. For Caleb Holt was the last heir to a network of hidden mountain estates created decades earlier by families who fled war, corruption, and lawlessness, pooling wealth into places no railroad or outlaw could reach. And Caleb had lived as a poor man by choice, believing wealth corrupted love, believing that if a woman chose him knowing only hardship, her love would be true. And Eleanor, overwhelmed by betrayal and awe, demanded the truth. And Caleb told her everything by the fire that night, how his parents were murdered for their land when he was a boy, how he learned that being seen meant being hunted, how he vowed to live small so that one day he could live safely, and how he had planned to reveal everything only after knowing her heart would not change. But danger forced his hand, and Eleanor wept not for the mansion but for the loneliness he carried, realizing that he never tested her to be cruel but to be sure she would not abandon him when the truth came. And in the weeks that followed, Eleanor struggled with her own pride, learning that wealth did not erase pain and that comfort did not guarantee happiness, while outside forces closed in, including the very relatives who once discarded her, now drawn by rumors of hidden riches, and a ruthless railroad baron determined to seize the mountain valley by force, leading to betrayal, gunfire, and a night where the mansion itself was nearly lost. But Eleanor proved her love not by choosing Lou, Jury, but by standing beside Caleb when he offered to burn it all rather than let innocent people be hurt. And it was her voice that steadied him, her courage that rallied the workers, her compassion that turned enemies into allies. And when the dust finally settled and the threats were gone, Eleanor understood that the true secret of the mountain was not the mansion, but the man who built a life invisible to protect his soul. And Caleb understood that the woman who married him poor would have married him in ashes. And together they opened the valley not to greed but to refuge, creating a place where broken people could begin again. And years later, travelers would whisper about a hidden estate in the mountains where love was chosen before wealth, where a woman once married a poor mountain man and discovered that the greatest fortune of all was trust, sacrifice, and a love strong enough to survive the truth.